But what they got was a mitigation package. So effectively, if you were losing money because of a cut, you could claim mitigation for that, and there was a payment set up to alleviate hardship that you would have.
Yep.
That mitigation payment, which was drawn up, ends in 2002. And when that ends, I foresee much more widespread hardship. There's no talk about replacing that fund. I'd be very sceptical whether the government will replace the fund. They may. I don't know. Obviously don't take those decisions. But as our magazine points out, View magazine has pointed out, the stories that we've done, a lot of times it's hidden. But the amount of people who are going through hardship now in deprived areas is on the rise. And one of the things the magazine highlighted was the obscenity, and I'll say that quite clearly, I mean, as a journalist, of the PIPS test. The PIP, people used to be on a thing called Disability Living Allowance,
yep.
and now you have to be assessed for PIPS, Personal Independence Payment Scheme. And the amount of stories that the magazine covered of people going there and how they felt the process was just so bad. Yeah. And people with obvious mental and physical conditions, at the end of it getting 0 points and then having to appeal and perhaps winning their case eventually at a tribunal, but the trauma that they undergo. And these things are happening as we speak now. People are going to these centres and getting these tests and getting 0 points and their lives being changed. And all I can do as a journalist, so I'm not exaggerating, all I can do as a journalist is to keep trying to raise these issues and bring the magazine out to look at the issue and say what are the alternatives to that. I'm a journalist, that's what I am. But I have a passionate interest in social affairs, and so I'm not someone who always thinks there's two sides to an argument, etc. No, when it comes to welfare cuts, I'm on the side of the people whose cuts have been done to them.
Yeah,
I'm very much. I will stand there and say I'm very much on your side. Although I'm a journalist, I will tell your story. And that's what the magazine does. We're always interested in people who want to talk to us about possibly injecting funding capital in the View magazine and our company View Digital, having that discussion. If I can achieve more funding into the company, I will bring on journalists and employ them and salary them and train them as well to develop the scope and the range of the magazine. I'm always looking for collaboration initiatives. So, I mean, by all means, I'm a great man for meeting people in coffee houses. I've avoided offices since I left my last paid job. So most of the meetings I do now are in coffee houses. So if anyone wants to chat with me about View, what we're doing, they're interested in the idea, please get in contact with me through the website, viewdigital.org, and we'll have that coffee, we'll have that chat, and who knows where it'll go. I'm a nice guy.
Obviously you're working now and you've got a bit more freedom now with the magazine, the role you have. How do you see print journalism now that you've left? You've stepped out of that world, and especially in Northern Ireland, how do you see the different papers that we have here?
There's been a huge sea change in print, and the rise of the mobile phone, and the rise of just technology per se. So the three main papers here would all have suffered losses: the Newsletter, the Telegraph, and the Irish News. But the one that's sort of holding its own pretty well, even with losses in circulation, would be the Irish News. Very tight operation. It's a well-run operation. The Telegraph has suffered dramatic losses. Huge dramatic losses. I think there's questions to be asked about that. The Newsletter is also a declining audience. What happened is that print looked at, the owners of print looked at the whole online thing, and there's a surge in the online, but how do you make money out of being online? That's a good question. And once you try to monetize for something, a lot of readers will go to somewhere else where they think they can get the same product. It's a struggle, it's a difficulty. So what we do with you, the model that we have, is we put it online, don't make any money through putting it online. So the magazine goes online, and then there's a print version comes out of that there, flows from that about 2 or 3 weeks later. And if the magazine is sponsored, the print issue is sponsored, 4 pages, that's paid for. But all the other content, that's the source of all the other content. I think you have to find your audience. You have to find an audience who really like what you're doing, whether it's a small audience, medium size, or huge. You have to find that audience. Who are they? What do they want? And do they like what you're doing? Do they like it? So some of our readers love it online. That's what they want. Other ones, maybe older, but they love the feel of a magazine. They just love it. It's like the way people love, some young people love collecting vinyl. They just love that feel in their hands, the physicality of the object. So I'm trying on a small scale to appeal to both of them. And the build up, and kind of, I don't like the word, but I can't think of a better word, is niche. But an audience who are interested in social affairs and they want the sort of stuff that you're trying to provide. They have an interest in, and there's a lot of young people. The young people are constantly stereotyped, how they think, why they think it, etc., etc. You know, I think a lot of people who do that forget that they were young once, you know, and just their heads. I've tried to never think like that. I know I'm getting old. I know that. I can't do anything. I can't stop the aging process. But I will try to produce a magazine that is interesting, informative, that is hopefully enjoyable, though it's difficult with social affairs issues. But a magazine, I suppose, at the end of the day, with passion. I am passionate, although at times I get tired, but I am passionate about the things. I've always been passionate about them since a young age, and I will continue to be passionate and make a nuisance about amongst government and other people who have to be answerable to things that are happening. They can't duck those responsibilities.
Great. And you're just talking about the government there, and obviously Stormont has been missing for nearly a record-breaking number of days. What kind of impact do you think that has, not having a visible government in Northern Ireland to social issues in Belfast?
I find that interesting. A lot of people now, politicians, etc., won't name them, or I'll get press releases, and at the end of them say, what this means is that Stormont must be up and running again. We must get Stormont up and running again. And I'm always curious to that, because I said we had Stormont for a long period of time, and we had all these issues, and Stormont did not tackle those issues. Those issues of social affairs issues continued during those periods, huge social problems. So, I'm very, very sceptical that if the Assembly was up tomorrow, that in 2 years' time I wouldn't be still talking about these issues. Be very, very sceptical of what big societal changes that Stormont would make. There wasn't that much legislation put through by Stormont, and most of the stuff that was put through was fairly predictable, non-contentious. And it's not my job as a journalist to say we should have Stormont up and running. Whether it's not up and running, my job will be to report on what's going on. So if Stormont's up and running, well, then I'll be at the door of ministers and ask them, why is this happening, or what are you doing about it, etc. But if it's not up and running, then I will be asking civil servants, because I did ask the civil service, the head of civil service in Northern Ireland, Permanent Secretary of the Department of Communities, Leo O'Reilly. I asked for an interview with him for our austerity issue to discuss welfare cuts. And I got a very bland response back that basically that's the job of ministers. No, if Northern Ireland at the moment is being run by the Secretary of State and by civil servants, then they should be answerable. We should be allowed to put questions to them, and they should be answerable. That's my view. They would probably take a different view on that, but that's my view. That the policies that have been made, someone has to be answerable and give their opinions on it, and not always hide under the cover, oh, it's not us, it's a minister, when there are no ministers around. So View will keep taking on these subjects and trying to get a range of voices. What I want is a range of voices. I don't have to agree with all the voices, but what I want in the magazine is a range of good, interesting voices that hopefully when someone picks it up who's interested in that subject will say, well, that's made me think. That's interesting. I might follow that up in some way. I might tell my friend about it. I don't know. The job as a journalist is to try and put in the best material you can. What people do with it afterwards, you don't have much control over that.
Absolutely. Final question, just be, so obviously you're dealing with all these difficult issues, and I'm sure can get a bit heavy at times. The nature of some of the issues. What is it that keeps you going? What's the positivity, or what's your hope for Belfast or Northern Ireland the next 10 years?
It's an interesting question, and that we are a very small place here. Anybody from here who's went to America, the States, or went to Europe, we tend to, after a while to see where we came from is different. But we have some tremendous people here. We have some great talent, great energy. Thankfully, we're not killing each other at the moment, and hopefully that doesn't return. But the big societal issues of lack of housing, educational, and there's a thing called the digital divide opening up more and more now, where a lot of people are not, for various reasons, disadvantaged areas, etc., are not really, the technological revolution is not really impacting upon their lives.
Yep.
They're just missing out on it. And we have to really address them. And to address them, I would imagine, again, I can't call for it because I'm a journalist, but I would imagine society goes through changes. I think we've been very quiet for a long time. I think the students have been very quiet for a long time in comparison to students in the 60s and the 70s. I think the trade unions really need to find their voice again much more stronger. I don't mean the leadership, I mean the members, people who are interested in trade unions. I think community groups have to do the same. I think all those sort of people who may share interest on the same subjects need to start talking to each other a lot more. We need to have a lot more discussion, or we have the Brexit train coming down the road, and I do feel really concerned about the impact of what Brexit is going to be like, not just on the economy, but on the rise of racism. We've already seen it in Britain since it came in, and it's deeply concerning. So I think it's a big challenge now to social libertarians, liberals, left-wingers, socialists, those humanists, but those sort of people who have those sort of ideas. There's a big challenge coming down the road of what they're going to do and what they want to do, and what the magazine hopefully will be doing, will be reporting on those things.
So yeah, thanks again to Brian for putting the time aside to talk to me. I've really enjoyed speaking to him. Really interesting person. Again, if anybody has any recommendations on who they'd like me to speak to going forward, I would really appreciate it if you send those across. We're on Facebook, on facebook.com/BelcastPod, twitter.com/BelcastPod, BelcastPod on Instagram, and like I said, we're on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Buzzsprout, basically all of the applications you'd expect. We're on, so yeah, check us out and make sure to give us a rating on whatever app that you use, and stay tuned for more.